Let's dive right into what I think is one of the most fascinating and honestly complex economic puzzles out there today. On one hand, you have India, the world's fastest growing major economy. It's literally building tech unicorns, constructing these massive highways, launching satellites, and rapidly becoming a total global technology hub. But then, despite all of these massive macro level wins, millions of young graduates are desperately struggling to find work. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to unpack exactly why this is happening, layer by layer. Because look, when you put these huge national victories right next to the frustrating reality on the ground, you instantly see a major disconnect. Every single year, millions of optimistic students graduate across India. But instead of walking straight into a booming job market, so many of them just end up waiting in these endless lines at job fairs. Some find themselves totally overqualified for whatever is actually out there, while others just can't find anything that matches their specific degree. So to figure out why this paradox exists, we have to look at the very foundation of India's economy. So let's start with layer one, the demographic setup. To really get to the bottom of this, we've got to look at what should be India's biggest theoretical advantage, its youth. India has something that so many developed nations, the ones with rapidly aging populations, would absolutely kill for. More than half of India's population is under the age of 30. Economists call this a demographic dividend. Basically, it's the economic boost you get when your working-age population outnumbers your dependents. In theory, this should be a massive engine for growth, right? More workers means more consumers, more innovation. I mean, this is exactly the demographic advantage that fueled China's spectacular rise over the last few decades. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Having millions of young people is only an asset if they actually have somewhere to work. A demographic dividend is not just some automatic guarantee of prosperity. It's a window of opportunity. If the economy can't generate enough jobs to absorb all that youthful energy, well, the whole advantage collapses. It quickly flips from an economic blessing into a massive demographic challenge. Which brings us to layer two, the disconnect. So where does this crisis actually start? Well, it starts right inside the classroom. Because degrees have become so common in India, a pretty dangerous assumption has taken root. Millions of students just assume that having a theoretical college degree is going to automatically guarantee them a job. But the modern job market simply doesn't work that way anymore. Companies aren't hiring degrees, they're hiring skills. So there is this profound mismatch between what's being taught in lecture halls and what employers actually need on the factory floor or in the office. While graduates are holding up their diplomas, employers are out there absolutely desperate for practical skills. They want problem-solving abilities, strong communication, technical expertise, digital literacy. It creates this incredibly strange, super frustrating situation. You've got millions of young people desperately looking for jobs, while at the exact same time, employers are saying they literally cannot find suitable candidates to fill their open roles. And then you throw rapid technological evolution into the mix. And that skills gap, it blows wide open. We are living through an era where AI and software are fundamentally changing how work gets done. Tasks that used to require huge teams of entry-level workers are now being automated in seconds. Now, that doesn't mean all jobs are disappearing, but it absolutely changes the types of jobs out there. Routine work is vanishing, which forces young workers to pivot hard toward creative thinking and data analysis just to survive. Moving on to layer three, the bottleneck. Because of all this uncertainty in the private sector, millions of young people are pushed toward a very specific and highly constricted path. Everyone wants job security, great benefits, and social status, so government jobs have become the absolute holy grail for young Indians. But the math here is just terrifying. We're talking millions of applicants fiercely competing for maybe a few thousand openings. It is not uncommon to see thousands of people with master's degrees and PhDs applying for entry-level clerical roles or messenger jobs. The tragic result is that so many young people spend the absolute prime years of their lives solely studying for competitive exams instead of getting the real-world experience the broader market actually values. So what happens to the millions who don't get those rare formal jobs? Well, they often turn to the informal economy. And it's super important to note that a massive chunk of India's workforce operates here. Street vendors, local shops, day labor. It definitely provides immediate work, but it just cannot meet the expectations of today's graduates. These jobs usually lack stability, healthcare benefits, and the long-term career growth that an educated youth really expects. All right, let's talk about the resolution, searching for real solutions.
If government jobs are a massive bottleneck and informal work is too unstable, where do the high-quality jobs actually come from? It's really tempting to look at India's booming startup ecosystem and think, oh, unicorns like Zomato or Flipkart will save the day. They've created amazing opportunities, for sure, but the sheer math on this chart tells the real story. The millions of job seekers entering the workforce every single year completely dwarf the hiring capacity of startups. Startups are incredibly lean. They just cannot absorb this massive youth demographic all on their own.
And that is exactly why economists constantly point to manufacturing as the true macro solution. If you look at the blueprints of places like Vietnam, South Korea, and China, they pulled millions out of poverty and into stable jobs through massive industrial growth. India is absolutely trying to boost domestic manufacturing right now, but creating these jobs isn't like flipping a switch. It requires vast, coordinated execution, massive financial investment, robust infrastructure, targeted skills programs, and serious long-term planning. No single industry is going to solve this overnight. Finally, let's look at the future of work. So, knowing that those big macro solutions take a ton of time, what does a young worker actually do right now? The reality is that the landscape is shifting directly beneath our feet. Just look at this list of expanding fields: artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data science, renewable energy. Many of the fastest growing careers today literally did not exist a decade ago. Waiting around for traditional industries to catch up might just be a losing strategy today.
Which brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway of this entire explainer. India has so much talent, ambition, and incredible energy. But the cold, hard reality of the modern global job market is that relentless adaptability is going to matter way more than traditional credentials. In a world where AI can write code and algorithms can analyze data, the most successful workers are going to be the ones who stay infinitely curious, who are constantly upskilling, and who can adapt to new tech faster than anyone else.
We've peeled back a lot of layers on this incredible paradox today, from the sheer size of the demographic dividend, to the glaring skills gap, to the bottleneck of government jobs. Finding a way out of this is going to require massive, coordinated effort from everyone: the government, businesses, and the education sector. But I want to leave you with a question to chew on as we think about the future of the world's fastest-growing economy. What do you think is the true root of this crisis? Is it an outdated education system? An economy that just can't scale fast enough? The disruptive force of AI and technology? Or is it simply a generational shift in expectations? The answer is going to define the entire trajectory of India's future. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.